What's going on, guys? Coach Aiden here from Relentless Strength and Conditioning. Today, by popular demand by our athletes and some of our adult groups, we're asking whether or not how can we build muscle or how can I lose weight? Well, those are both great questions. So, unfortunately, we can't do both. The human body doesn't work that way, but we can recomp. That's a little more sophisticated, so we're just going to break it down into two subjects of building muscle or losing weight. So you got to pick one, unfortunately. I'm very sorry about that. But before we even start, super important, you need to know how calories work, okay? So calories is our form of energy. Energy in, this is what provides us the ability to produce work. So calories in have to be greater than, say, calories out. A simple way to put this is, you need to be eating more than you are burning. Yes, so calories you are burning at rest, calories you are burning when you are working out, calories that you are burning while you're eating too, believe it or not. So, calories in should be greater than calories out, and we'll provide equations and ways to set that up for you later on in the next series of episodes. So, but what does that mean by calories in? So, how can I get more calories in, you're probably asking? Well, calorie-dense foods. One of my popular go-tos is making shakes. I wouldn't load it with sugar, right, because we don't want to diminish our results in any way possible, but don't be afraid to sprinkle a little bit more in there. Even if you want to throw in ice cream, go right ahead, but be mindful, right? Calorie-dense foods, but also make it nutritionally beneficial to you too. We want whole foods. So, calorie-dense foods such as shakes, increasing the number of servings at your meals. So this could be doubling up the amount of protein you have, maybe adding more chicken to your meals, adding more rice, right? We want more protein and carbs, okay? Another thing, increase the frequency, increase the number of meals or snacks you have throughout the day. That's pretty simple, right? I mean, the hardest part with training is not the training itself, but eating afterwards, okay? A lot of it is made in the kitchen. So, and one of the important concepts that we should cover too is the protein intake, right? Protein is mandatory, okay? It is required. If you want to produce results with fat loss or building muscle, you must meet appropriate protein guidelines. The one I usually follow by, that is seen through NSCA, all the organizations, ACSM, they say 1.4 to 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So, what you would do is probably convert it. There's calculators online where you can convert your body weight from pounds to kilograms, and then based on that, you can multiply it by 1.4 to 1.8, and that will determine how many grams of protein you want to eat in a day. So try to aim for the range of 1.4 to 1.8. Another specific thing we could talk about too is myostatin inhibition. So that's a fancy term of, there's this thing called myostatin. It's this protein that's released in your body, and what it's responsible is making sure you don't turn into a Hulk, right? So if you're curious about it too, you can look it up. People that are myostatin deficient, they can produce muscle in ridiculous quantities without putting out as much work as, say, you or I. And it's pretty crazy how it works too. But since we pretty much have normal myostatin levels, there are foods that can inhibit or prevent that myostatin from building up, allowing for greater muscle increases. So there are supplements like creatine, and there's other foods you can focus on too, but we'll cover that on another time. And the one thing I try to aim for too, so when building muscle, right, it is important that you're building muscle, but you're not building up too much fat mass too. So theoretically, about a pound of muscle, it's probably changed by now, is around 3,500 calories. What we want to aim for every day, roughly, is the 250 or 500 more calories on top of what we're burning in that day to allow for that muscle to build, right? If you're not eating enough, you're not building, okay? It's as simple as that. Calories out. Well, now we want to lose weight, right? We can't build muscle at the same time, but we can maintain as much muscle as possible by following these steps. So, you're probably asking, nutritionally dense whole foods, what are those? Well, kind of like the rainbow diet, right? Typically we find that people that incorporate multiple colors in their diets usually have the best outcomes. A lot of phytochemicals, a lot of phytonutrients. This includes vegetables, grains, legumes, all in those categories, right? Whole foods, not processed, not Cheez-Its, none of that garbage. You can still lose weight on that, but it's way easier to eat nutritionally dense foods that have lower calorie counts than, say, processed, higher fatty foods that make it harder for us to lose weight. Increase the activity. This doesn't mean increase the amount of training. You're probably already tired from that. It can be as simple as walking, okay? Walking is one of the greatest ways to burn the most amount of calories with very minimal work. And other forms of that, increase your protein intake. believe it or not, with thermogenesis, right, 30% of the calories when consuming protein is lost just by trying to convert it. Protein and even fats too. So fats have the lowest, and then carbs have the second highest, which is about 5 to 10%. So increase your protein intake. And usually, I know we mentioned the proteins per kilogram of body weight over here. When you're trying to lose weight, it's recommended to increase that protein intake before any other macronutrient. So typically I find people should do 1.4 to 2 grams of protein kilogram of body weight. People that have problems with their kidneys or any other health-related issues that prevent them to do it, be mindful of this. I would consult your doctor. But this is typically what we would see in healthier patients. Thermogenesis, muscle mass and BMR. Thermogenesis, I mentioned it earlier too. It's just the energy that's burnt through mastication or chewing and breaking down in your body. So foods that are higher, like higher protein content, carbs, and then fats in that order have from greatest to least amount of thermogenesis. So obviously increase your protein intake. Muscle mass and BMR. Believe it or not, if you have more muscle mass than someone else, you are burning more calories at rest. So for this case, just be mindful of how many calories you are burning out. If you're not eating enough too, if you're in a deficit and you're not eating appropriately, your body can halt that. So make sure you're tracking how much you are eating. And typically in this, it's in the reverse, minus 250 to 500 calories on top of what you are burning in that day. And last but not least, I know that we covered a lot today, and I really appreciate you guys watching. There are several other factors that you can see right here, hopefully. Sleep, stress, overtraining versus undertraining, alcohol and substances, etc. So make sure, sleep, right? If you're not sleeping, your hormones are not in check usually, okay? Cortisol levels are through the roof, okay? This is detrimental to meeting your goals. It might be harder to build muscle. It might be harder to lose weight because you are not getting your 8 hours or so amount of sleep. Stress, okay? I'm sure you've heard this a lot of times. Stress is usually indicative of your cortisol levels, or vice versa, I guess. Cortisol, it's not a bad thing in smaller amounts, but when it's over time due to stress and lack of sleep or poor diet, it can compound to a point where it makes your goals even harder to reach. So keep that in mind, okay? So find ways to relax, de-stress. I'm not saying yoga, I'm not saying meditate, I'm saying be mindful of what your triggers might be. And another thing, overtraining versus undertraining. A lot of people think, hey, if I train more, like I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna lose more weight. Yes and no. By doing this, you are putting your body in a stressful situation, my goodness. You are placing your body under a lot of stress, and it makes it hard to reach their goals, right? Okay, even like us, cognitively, we do not function well under stress. Same thing works for the rest of your nervous system and the rest of your body, okay? So keep in mind of that. And then alcohol and substances. Look, I know you guys like your drinks, not the athletes, of course, my adult group. Have your drinks, but be mindful, right? Because alcohol not only does it dehydrate the body at times, there's other chemical processes that occur. There is a byproduct for toxins too, so it makes it harder on protein utilization in the body. So be mindful of that too, and other substances. I'm sure you know where I'm going with that one, but be mindful. And there's other factors too that can involve, let alone like hormone levels, etc. But like I said, if you guys have any questions about anything I said on here, please reach out to relentlessconditioning.com or reach us at our email at relentlessconditioning@gmail.com. We would love to answer any of your questions, and feel free to stop by if you're interested. Thank you again, and look forward to seeing you soon.